and you thought the Brooklyn crowd was passionate, wait for our performance. I'm Annalyn Swan, a biographer, critic, and writer, and I put that in because I often am in the Rose Reading Room of the New York Public Library, so I sort of know whereof I speak. What we know is the Central Library Plan is a spectacularly misguided plan, if indeed the word plan can even be applied to something so poorly conceived and badly designed. It will at once eviscerate one of the world's greatest research institutions, shoehorn the existing branch libraries of Midtown into a space far too small, and starve other branch libraries throughout the city of desperately needed funds. Other than that, it's a brilliant idea. In the interest of time, I will raise only two essential questions about the funding for the project. First, the library has chosen by far the most expensive option going forward at a time, as Tony Marks stated sitting right here earlier, of quote-unquote devastating funding cuts. One central reason given for the huge cost of the plan is the expensive engineering needed to demolish the stacks which support the floor of the Rose Reading Room above them. The lead engineer has likened the procedure to, quotes, cutting the legs off a table while dinner is being served. By contrast, a 2003 design by Gwathmey Siegel Associates to rehabilitate the Mid-Manhattan Library across the street was estimated to cost $120 million. Even allowing for inflation, the difference between the cost of the project and the $300 to $350 million estimated price tag of the 40th Street makeover is eye-popping. Second, the library has overestimated operating savings from the Central Library Plan. Again and again, we have heard the library claim poverty as a reason for consolidating the two Midtown branches into the 40th Street, 2nd Street main library. $50 million annually could be saved, we were told. However, the library has more recently acknowledged, in the person of the chief operating officer, that the library was conservatively counting on realizing only $7 million in annual operating savings, less than half the original estimate. Given so many major questions about both the funding and the nature of the project, the Committee to Save the New York Public Library believes the Central Library Plan should not proceed until there has been an independent study of its costs, its disproportionate gobbling up of funds while the branch libraries fight for every crumb, and finally, a review of Norman Foster's less than rapturously received remake of the stacks. I would submit that maybe it's time for Plan B. Thank you.
Next.
I'm going to be repeating some of the statistics, but I think they're complicated enough to bear repetition. The Committee to Save the New York Public Library is very concerned about the imprecision with which the cost of the Central Library Plan, the closing of the Mid-Manhattan and the Science, Industry, and Business Library, the selling of their premises, and the consolidation of their functions within the 42nd Street Research Library has been presented to the public. The massive construction project will involve the demolition of 7 stories of stacks. Since they serve as the structural support of the Rose Reading Room, highly sophisticated engineering skills will be required to fulfill the promise that the reading room will remain open for research throughout construction, and it's been claimed that we won't hear a thing. A new delivery system for books will have to be devised. At least 1.5 million volumes will have to be moved to remote storage before the planned circulating library can be built in the space thus made available. In 2008, the estimated cost for the complex plan was $250 million. At the presentation of Norman Foster's design in December 2012, it was presented as $350 million. In February 2013, the New York Public Library Chair, Neil Rudenstein, admitted that the budget estimates, quote, cannot be refined with any precision at this stage, end quote. Knowing Norman Foster's reputation for cost overruns as well, there can be no doubt that costs will go higher still. Can the Committee on Cultural Affairs countenance such fiscal unpredictability, particularly during a period of economic uncertainty? To confuse matters further, the source of the funding has also shifted. Now it is presented as $150 million of New York City taxpayer money and $150 million from the sales of the Donnell Library, the Research Annex, and 5 floors of office space in the Science and Business Building. Since the Mid-Manhattan Library, originally the linchpin of the Central Library Plan, is no longer mentioned as part of the funding mix, why can it not be developed as the star circulating library of the system at far less cost and without the destruction of a great New York City monument? An independent review of the CLP, Central Library Plan, is clearly required. Thank you.
I am Veronika Conant, a member of the Committee to Save the New York Public Library as well, and I am also a retired librarian. I want to address the capital budget for the New York Public Library system and oppose its use for the Central Library Plan, as mentioned by my friends here. But in particular, the 150 million in capital funds and the total cost of this enormous and sort of futile venture, not very wise venture, to be 300 to 350 million. Many of the New York Public Library systems, 87 neighborhood circulating libraries and 4 research libraries, are in bad physical condition with long-standing problems needing attention. At the New York State Library's website, there is a list of the New York Public Library System's estimated construction needs for 2012 to 2017. And in my handout to you, I gave you the website. There are 64 libraries listed, and actually this is a list of them. And the 64 libraries listed with construction needs for partial or full interior, exterior renovations, air conditioning, lots of air conditioning, windows, fire protection. And the total cost is close to 337 million, which is very comparable to the cost estimates we have been hearing about the Central Library Plan. According to the New York Public Library's 2011 annual report, the research libraries had almost 2.5 million users, the 87 branches 15 million or over. During the present economic times, more library users than ever have been turning to the libraries and library resources. Neighborhood libraries are very important. According to the Branches of Opportunity, I am also turning to that one, which is a great, really very useful publication, as we are all finding. Renovated libraries have significant increase in their use. For example, in the Bronx, they built a new library for $50 million, which has 200,000 volumes, 78,000 square feet, and since 2006, it tripled the use to over 600,000. It became the second most used library in the New York Public Library system. Now, the only higher is the Mid-Manhattan, which is under the X right now. The only other library, branch library higher, is the Donnell Library, which in in its last year, before it was sold, had over 700,000 attendance. And in the last year of its operation, it was claimed that its air conditioner repair would have cost 50 million. We heard that one before. But that was the first use of it. Oh, can you please exercise your oversight function and have a careful look at the needs of the branches? A balanced approach is needed, looking at the entire system and beyond. As for the Donnell, I would like to ask you and the New York Public Library to make sure it will be rebuilt at the same size as before. Since the new building will be in a 46-story high condo hotel, and at the time of the sale, they said it would be 11 stories high. Please protect our branches, prevent their sale not only to Manhattan, but in all the boroughs. And we ask you to, as the others, I can only repeat, that the Committee to Save New York Public Library believes that this mustn't proceed until there has been an independent study of the costs and the costs of all the feasible alternatives, and the impact of the plan on the branch libraries, the research library, and on the 42nd Street building itself. Two more statements I would like to make. One is that President Marx always said they cannot change it because these 150 million was for the plan that they have. However, I have done grants before, and a budget modification could redirect the funds towards alternative plans. and the branches, and also for the renovation of Mid-Manhattan, which is for many of us a very good alternative. And then one last recommendation, I would love to have, or would it be possible for the City Council to have a library committee which has every borough represented, strong oversight of all this. That's all. Thank you.